From where we sit today, it's difficult to believe that a mere 4.5 years ago, I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to pre-order opening night tickets for Avengers Endgame. And I was far from the only one, but that's where we were in the summer of 2019. Marvel Studios was enjoying a run of box office success and public goodwill that's unprecedented in the history of the motion picture business and unlikely to ever be replicated at any time in the near future. But even sitting as prettily as they were, there were signs of potential trouble on the horizon. Signs that were easy enough to overlook at the time, but in retrospect, more heed probably ought to have been paid to them. I mean, sure, the scoreboard says Captain Marvel made $1 billion+ at the box office and was a bona fide hit movie, which, in a vacuum, is true. Allegedly. Because there was some stuff with that picture that felt more than a little bit fishy, but hey, maybe I am just a filthy conspiracy theorist. Maybe there's a perfectly innocent, non-corrupt explanation for why the studio and the access media kept insisting that droves of moviegoers were packing the theaters for Captain Marvel, while actual moviegoers kept posting pictures of nearly empty auditoriums. I'm sure it's perfectly within the realm of possibility that millions upon millions of customers purchased tickets for the movie and got lost on their way to the theater. Maybe got abducted by aliens on the way to the theater. Not unlike Captain Marvel herself. The point being, well, let's call things what they are. Captain Marvel is a shitty movie. And the people who made it, they knew it was a shitty movie. But Marvel was in such a great position at that point, they could get away with one shitty movie. In fact, they could turn a shitty movie with a dumb story and a congenitally unlikable star into a $1 billion hit just by sticking it in between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And maybe juicing the ticket numbers just a little tiny bit. Allegedly. Here, let's put it another way. When I say Captain Marvel made $1 billion, I get the exact same feeling as I do when I say Joe Biden got 81 million votes for president. It's that little asterisk in your head that says, okay, it's a technically correct statement, but there's a strong possibility that there may be extenuating circumstances. But when you're at the tail end of a 10-year run like the one Marvel was on in 2019, you can get away with that sort of thing. And the average Marvel fan is totally willing to say, no, of course I didn't like Captain Marvel. It was a bunch of lame, shallow, girl power, girl boss, smash the patriarchy bullshit. But Marvel's done 20 pictures I really like, so I'm willing to overlook this one shitty, annoying one, which is to say the success of Captain Marvel was a case of a studio tapping into its reserves of public goodwill, putting out a picture that was nowhere near the quality of the other films in the saga because they knew those reserves were deep enough in the summer of 2019 that the fans were willing to give them a free pass. And if Captain Marvel was a one-time incident, it wouldn't have cost them anything in terms of degrading the reputation of the brand, because when you've given people a years-long run of good movies that they've really enjoyed, and you've told a story in which they've fully invested themselves, they will let you slide if you shit the bed one time. But today? Well, today is not the summer of 2019. And Captain Marvel was not a one-time incident either. Rather, it was the shape of things to come. Marvel has released a hell of a lot of content in the intervening 4.5 years. None of it particularly good. Most of it rather insufferably awful. But where will future historians place the company's nadir, its rock bottom, the moment the studio finished pissing away all that credibility and fan goodwill? Well, they might say it was this week. And the irony likely won't escape them that the second Captain Marvel picture, which actually isn't a Captain Marvel picture since she got demoted in her own sequel, but that's a whole other thing, finished the job that the first Captain Marvel picture had begun. And after this week, the question never needs to be asked again. Do movie audiences want to see strong, powerful superheroines of color fighting strong, powerful female supervillains of color? No, they do not. It almost seems like the movie-going public really, really preferred it when the main heroes in the MCU were a bunch of toxic white male heterosexuals, which I guess means the audience are just a bunch of damned filthy bigots. But the news isn't all that bad for the Marvels, as the new picture is called. It's just mostly bad. When you're the studio and the access media, No matter the totality with which your narrative has crashed and burned already, you still, in duty bound, you have to show up the next day, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and get to work slathering the damn lipstick on the damn pig. This picture just opened to 46 million domestic, 110 million worldwide. So there's a lot of pig and not that much lipstick, is all I'm saying. In fact, they were only able to come up with one thing. They said, best opening weekend ever for a film with a black female director. So suck on that, bigots. But there's another thing they seem to have overlooked completely, which really surprises me. In fact, there's a whole other intersectional angle they could have pursued and didn't, because if I'm not mistaken, the Marvels also just had the best opening ever for a picture with a disabled lead. Brie Larson, who got the double whammy from the Fate machine when she was sadly born without a personality and without an ass. But did she allow herself to be defined by her disadvantage? Oh no, not my assless wonder. She put her head down and got right to work, smashing those glass ceilings and taking on that evil patriarchy. In fact, if it wasn't for Brie Larson and the very important humanitarian work that she does, I would have no idea that 65% of movie critics are white males over 40. Wait, yes I would, because that seems like a perfectly reasonable percentage that I might have been able to guess. Never mind! The point is, next time you sit on the toilet, thank your lucky stars that you weren't born with a congenital defect like the one from which Brie Larson suffers. For you and me, it's something we never think twice about. For a person who suffers from an incurable case of gluteosa absentia, like our good friend Ms. Larson, she has to take all manner of precautions, or else she will miss the seat entirely and drop straight into the bowl. And what's more, her trenchant refusal to wear a prosthetic ass, it is both brave and inspiring.